Someone is lying. Someone is hiding the truth. And one explosive accusation is about to send shockwaves through Weatherfield. Because Maria Connor has reached breaking point. She's convinced her husband is betraying her. She's convinced Sarah Platt is helping him do it. And before the night is over, a public confrontation will leave shattered relationships, broken glass and blood on the dinner table. But what if Maria has got it all wrong? And what if the truth is even more devastating than the affair she believes she's uncovered? For weeks, something hasn't felt right. The signs were small at first. A glance here. A whispered conversation there. Moments that didn't make sense. Moments that seemed harmless on the surface. But to Maria they started adding up. Because every time she looked at Gary lately, she saw a man carrying secrets. And every time Sarah appeared nearby, those secrets seemed to grow bigger. The man Maria once trusted more than anyone suddenly felt like a stranger. And that's what frightened her most. Because this isn't just any relationship. Maria and Gary have survived battles that would have destroyed most couples. They've faced danger, loss, heartbreak, and some of the darkest moments imaginable. When Liam suffered through a terrifying bullying ordeal that nearly pushed him beyond his limits, Gary stood beside the family. He fought for Liam, protected him, supported Maria when she felt completely helpless. In those moments, Gary wasn't just a husband. He was a lifeline, a rock, someone she believed would never abandon her. Which is exactly why the possibility of betrayal hurts so much. Because when trust cracks, every memory becomes a question. Every explanation sounds like a lie. Every silence becomes suspicious. And Maria's suspicions have been growing stronger with every passing day. But that's only the beginning. Because unknown to most people, Gary and Sarah have been behaving strangely for a reason. A very dangerous reason. Both of them became tangled in the aftermath of Theo Silverton's shocking murder. A crime that continues to cast a dark shadow over everyone involved. They know things. They've seen things. And they're carrying information that connects them in ways other people don't understand. But Maria doesn't know that. All she sees are secret conversations, hidden meetings, and nervous reactions whenever she walks into a room. To her there's only one explanation. An affair. And once that idea takes hold she can't let it go. The suspicion begins poisoning everything. Every interaction. Every smile. Every excuse Gary makes. Maria becomes trapped in a painful cycle. She wants answers. But she's terrified of what those answers might be. Because deep down she's already convinced she's lost him. And when somebody believes their heart is about to be broken, they can do desperate things. Which brings us to the dinner party. The invitation should have been harmless. A gathering among friends. A chance to relax. A chance to forget the growing tension hanging over Weatherfield. Instead it becomes the perfect battlefield. The moment Maria receives the invitation, a decision is made. This isn't going to be a pleasant evening. This is going to be a reckoning. A public one. And nobody at that table realizes what's coming. Not Gary. Not Sarah. Not Todd. Not Summer. Not even Kit. Because while everyone else prepares for dinner, Maria prepares for war. And that's where the real mystery begins. What exactly is she planning? How far is she willing to go? And what happens when months of fear and suspicion finally explode? As the evening begins, tension quietly fills the room. The conversations seem normal enough. The smiles appear genuine. But beneath the surface, emotions are boiling. Maria watches everything. Every glance. Every word. Every interaction between Gary and Sarah. She's searching for proof. Searching for confirmation that she's been right all along. And the more she watches, the more convinced she becomes. Her anger grows. Her heartbreak deepens. Her determination hardens. Then comes the moment nobody sees coming. Maria stands. The room falls silent. And under the guise of making a toast she lights the fuse. What begins as a few carefully chosen words quickly turns into something far more explosive. Suddenly the accusations are out in the open. No more secrets. No more pretending. No more hiding. Maria publicly accuses Gary and Sarah of having an affair. The room freezes. Shock spreads across every face. Because this isn't a private argument. This is humiliation. This is devastation. This is years of trust being ripped apart in front of witnesses. And for a few seconds nobody knows what to say. But one detail changes everything. Instead of relief, confusion appears. Instead of guilt, there are reactions Maria wasn't expecting. And suddenly a new question emerges. What if Gary and Sarah aren't hiding a romance at all? What if they're hiding something completely different? The possibility hangs in the air. Dangerous. Uncomfortable. Terrifying. Because if Maria's wrong, then what exactly have Gary and Sarah been concealing? And why have they been acting so suspiciously? As emotions spiral out of control, the evening descends into chaos. Voices rise. Accusations fly. Old wounds are reopened. Painful truths begin surfacing. Years of frustration spill out. And underneath all the anger, Maria's real feelings finally emerge. Because this isn't just about betrayal. It's about fear. The fear of losing the person she loves. The fear of being replaced. The fear that everything she's built with Gary could disappear overnight. For all her rage, Maria is heartbroken. She's a woman desperately trying to protect herself from pain. A woman who believes she's already been abandoned. And that's what makes the situation so tragic. Because sometimes the people who lash out the hardest are the ones hurting the most. But then things become even more complicated. As the confrontation intensifies, attention begins shifting. Questions about Gary and Sarah start colliding with questions about Theo's murder. Pieces of a much larger puzzle begin appearing. The affair accusation suddenly feels connected to something darker. Something far more sinister. Because secrets have a habit of colliding. And when they do, nobody escapes unscathed. The atmosphere becomes unbearable. Panic spreads. Tempers flare. People start choosing sides. And before anyone can regain control, disaster strikes. A crash. A scream. Glass shatters. Everything changes in an instant. The dinner party erupts into complete chaos. Fragments scatter across the room. Shock turns to panic. And then comes the horrifying sight nobody expected. Blood. Blood splattered across the dinner table. For a moment, time seems to stop. Nobody knows what's happening. Nobody knows who's hurt. Nobody knows what comes next. The evening that began with accusations has become something much more dangerous. And suddenly the affair isn't the biggest concern anymore. Now everyone is asking a different question. How did things spiral this far? And who will pay the price? As the aftermath unfolds, relationships are left hanging by a thread. Trust has been shattered. Friendships have been tested. And Gary and Maria find themselves facing the greatest challenge their marriage has ever endured. Not because of what happened at the dinner table, but because of what happens afterward. Because once words are spoken, they can't be taken back. Once accusations are made, they leave scars. And once doubt enters a relationship, removing it is nearly impossible. For Maria, the damage may already be done. Even if Gary can explain himself. Even if Sarah is innocent. Even if the entire affair theory collapses. The emotional wounds remain. And that's what makes the future so uncertain. Can a marriage survive this level of suspicion? Can trust ever truly return? Or has something been broken forever? The answers remain frustratingly out of reach. But one thing is becoming clear. Gary and Maria are standing at a crossroads. A moment that could define the rest of their lives. They've survived storms before. They've endured tragedy before. But this feels different. This feels bigger. Because for the first time, the threat isn't coming from outside forces. It's coming from within their own relationship. And that may be the most dangerous challenge of all. Yet even now, there are questions nobody can answer. Questions about Theo. Questions about Sarah. Questions about what Gary is still hiding. Because despite everything that's happened, the full truth remains buried. And if that truth finally comes to light, Maria's accusations may prove to be only the beginning. Because somewhere in Weatherfield, secrets are still waiting to explode. And when they do, the consequences could destroy far more than one marriage. They could change everything. Forever.